Welcome to another episode of Last Week's Comics Today. I've got, I think, 9 this week, and next week is supposed to be very small again, so I don't know, maybe I'll go looking for some extra stuff. But, 9 books. Let's get into it. We're going to start with Dark Ride, issue 6. And I was confused initially. But it starts in the past. It starts with Samhain and Halloween playing with their mother at the park. At first I thought the park was nearly empty, but I'm like, no, there are some people in the background. I'm like, some other people on the ride. It just seems, I don't know, I'm used to Six Flags and just swaths of people all over the place, and this looks, as far as amusement park goes, I mean, this is a well-crowded scene, but actually, I think I know this too. It just seems like the park is fairly empty. Anyway, that happens. And father shows up, and the father's a dick. And we then jump to the present. And this is the point of confusion that I had, is this is the son, Samhain, and for this initial part, I thought this was the sister, except she's not, because the sister shows up later. But they're in this pile of trash that's underneath the park, and this creepy dude has built a woman out of trash that he then licks, and it's like, gross. Anyway, he's then attacked by an axe, and they wind up getting away. So they wind up getting away, and then the sister shows up, and at this point, I'm like, did she change that quickly? And then I remembered, no, she is the one that is investigating the death of her brother, and it's 2 different women. Anyway, it's good. I'm still enjoying it. The mystery deepens, and things are it's just well told. I'm the problem, not the book. Well, maybe the book set things up so that I was thinking a certain way, and because of my memory, I didn't remember where things had been left, because we sort of, when we get back to the present, it jumps into what had been happening rather than setting it up, so I don't know. I feel like it's my fault, though. Anyway, it's good. Still enjoying it. Recommend it. Don't Spit in the Wind, issue 2. I haven't looked this up, but I am curious if this was originally published in Europe before being cut up into American-sized issues, because this doesn't feel like an independent issue of a story. It feels like a literal exact continuation of the first issue. I say that because there isn't much here to reestablish who any of these characters are or what they're doing, and I feel behind. I feel like I've missed something, but we do get this guy. Rather colorful. And we get the trash. See what's going on down there. And then this happens. So all of that is happening on the surface. We then jump to this guy, who I think was the star of the first issue, and I'd have to double check. Look at this. That doesn't look great. And we also get a scene up in space. This is explaining sort of the hierarchy of the people living in space. It's super interesting. We then see this, which is even more telling about everything that's going on in space. And I suppose back on the surface. And this honestly was a personal highlight, but also it's kind of devastating because it's, I mean, the setup is Wall-E-ish. And it's a more depressing Wall-E, I'd say. But we've got this hand, and this hand is being pulled out of the trash. And that's how this issue ends. And I'll say not that much happens, but it is still well done. There's then this preview for You've Been Cancelled. And I hadn't added this to my pull list, but after seeing this preview, I'm thinking about it. I'm definitely familiar with this art, although I don't know, maybe I'm not. I thought The art definitely, the art style seems familiar. I feel like I've read something from this person before, but I don't see a credits page. I thought I'd looked at who the writer and artists were previously when this first showed up in previews, and I don't recall, but I'm very tempted to add this to my pull list now. You've Been Cancelled, coming next month. So, I say this pretty often, but I think this will read better collected, certainly than as single issues separated by 4 weeks at a time. I do also feel like I should have reread issue 1, or reread 1 and then immediately 2, just so that I wasn't lost, and maybe I'll try to do that before reading issue 3. I'm still enjoying it. It's structurally just not, there's something missing. Mosley, issue 4, there's only 1 issue left in this miniseries. Things are close to wrapping up, I feel like. This ends in such a way where there's one last task for the cast of characters to complete. The rest of this feels a bit Matrix-y, in that the plan of the robots gets explained here, and it is basically to digitize humanity, upload them into computers, and I guess next steps after that, it's unknown. Open to discussion, I guess. But, so some questions are answered here. Not the big one as to why this guy has a hammer that gives him magic powers. I do have an idea about that. I don't know how it's going to fit into the rest of the story, but I have an idea. Art's still good. The story, I have no idea where it's going. But it remains interesting, and I will see how it ends, how this wraps up next issue. Still looks like a fist, I think. Anyway, I'll let you know whether or not it's been worth it, whether or not to get the trade next issue once this wraps up. Little Monsters, issue 13. This is the final issue, which saddens me because I was very much enjoying this. I've said this numerous times. I thought this could have run for much longer, but we do reach an ending here. It's not necessarily the ending I wanted, not the one I expected, but things do conclude, they wrap up, and I just wish it hadn't. I wish this would have run for much longer. We had more time with these characters. I really like these characters. This Lord of the Flies setup with vampires. I loved it. I loved this book, and as soon as I read that it was ending at 13, it boggled my mind, and I've never gotten past that. It's still great. I still wish we had gotten more, and it saddens me that we didn't, but that's where we are, and I enjoyed it. I recommend it. I recommend it in a way. I recommend it because it's good, but you might, if you're anything like me, get to the end and feel dissatisfied rather than satisfied. So I don't know. It's an invitation to possible disappointment, which is weird. It's not something I'm used to, but regardless, it is a recommendation. World's Finest, issue 15. This is the issue of new names, and so we've got Ultramorpho here on the cover, introduced last issue. Found out what his deal was, well, a bit, as far as his abilities as compared to Metamorpho. So Ultramorpho here can transform into any element, and he chooses Kryptonite because he's facing off against Superman, so that obviously complicates things immediately. But all Kryptonite body. Anyway, there's another new character in here, if you will allow a spoiler, but we get Batman and the Metal Men versus Ultramorpho. And if we skip ahead a bit, oh, I forgot about her. So we get to see some returning characters. There's Doom Patrol. I'm wondering if this is all going to tie back in. Everything that has come thus far is going to wind up tying back in at some point. We also get Challenges of the Unknown, which I think this is the first time we're seeing them in this series, but this is a fun one-page appearance from them. Got the Titans, who had been in the series before. And then here's the spoiler that I mentioned a minute ago. So Batman and Superman meet up with the other robot engineers. New Mazo. Not on the same par as Ultramorpho. This one feels a little lazy, but whatever. We also get a call between Robin and Supergirl. Hopefully she returns as well. And then it ends. It ends on a cliffhanger. Nobody is really in good shape. Superman and Batman have been captured. Robin, I think, had acid splashed on his leg, which is not great. I mean, over in Zdarsky's Batman, he was shot in the neck a couple of issues ago. This is... Actually, I think this is Dick, not Tim. Anyway, not a great couple of months for Robin. Let's just say that. Not a good couple of months for Batman either, in that regard. But anyway, this is good. I'm enjoying it more than I admit, and I should probably add this to my pull list rather than continue pulling it off the rack. At 15 months, I think I should add this to my pull list. Immortal Sergeant, issue 5. This should be the halfway point of the 9-issue series. We have... it's a pretty tense issue, I would say, because there is this confrontation at home between the two women in our leads' lives, and also the road trip between father and son leads to a humorous conversation about race and race portrayal, and then surprisingly it shifts into defunding the police and police actions, and it's fairly nuanced considering that one of the characters is generally portrayed as naive and the other is belligerent. It's high quality. This book is miles ahead of everything else that came out this week. Really, I think probably everything else that I'm currently reading. Berg did correctly guess that this is my pick of the week. It is so good. It's incredible. I guess I didn't have any laugh out loud in bed moments because I read this while my wife was asleep. So, still funny, incredibly good, highly recommended. Usually, I talk about one issue at a time, right? But for these three, I'm going to talk about all of them at the same time because I have roughly the same thing to say about all of them, which is they're okay, not great. But we have a new issue, number 1 of Titans and a number 1 of Avengers. Both of these are okay. Neither is really standout. Issue 1 of Guardians was, I thought, very good last month, the first issue, whatever. It was very good. I added it to my pull list. This issue seems like a step back. It was already high. It's like already coming down from the high of issue 1. And these just didn't entice me anywhere near enough to add either one to my pull list. This is, I guess, extra weird because there's Wally shit going on. There's really just Flash stuff, and I think I can only tolerate the Flash as a side character, just because if he's the main character, then the ridiculousness of him, of what writers have him do, is front and center, and I can't stand it. Like, he, at some point in here, in all of these text boxes, he talks about having seconds to live. Bullet has already pierced my heart. He's got something like 3 seconds to live. Maybe he doesn't specifically say 3, but he's like, I'm gonna be dead in seconds. And so he runs home. At least they added in some hair blowing around effects, but he just runs home. It should be 3 relative seconds. I'm saying it should be 3 relative seconds. Also, you can't run. The Flash pisses me off. Anyway, the rest of it's fine. It's fine. I kind of expected more from Taylor. I also kind of expected more from Jed, but this, having watched Guardians 3 just a couple of weeks ago, this feels like a carbon copy. It feels like an attempt at the movie cast, but everything is off by a note. I don't ultimately care, really. I don't care. Kind of like Spider-Man, I try Guardians, and none of it's hooked me. So that is everything that I bought this week. These, I would say, are my top 3. However, Immortal Sergeant gets top billing. I am looking forward to, and it worries me that it still hasn't been relisted, but whenever Farmhand comes back, I think it is vastly better written. Art is fine on this, but as far as the writing goes, this is not nearly as good as Farmhand. I want that to return. But Immortal Sergeant, definitely pick of the week. And as always, I get all of my books from a local comic shop. If you don't know where yours is, you can use this URL to find the one closest to you. Thanks for watching.